Okay, this is day 7 of this Vauxhall Vivaro camper van conversion, and what we're going to do today is the stretch carpeting. So I'm going to set this workshop up so that we can do that more easily. We need a big bench for this so we can cut the thing up properly, and nice sharp pair scissors, lots of Stanley knife blades, spray adhesive, and we'll hopefully get the whole van carpeted today. Alright, so here we have the carpet itself. I'm just going to open this up, see what we've got. Right, there we have our carpet, and in here we have our spray adhesive. So I'm going to put this on the bench over here. Right, so I've got this spread out on a surface, and the first thing we want to do is find out how much of this we need for the far side of the van. So I'm going to measure that up, I'll cut a length off here, and then we'll get to it. Okay, so for the main wall in the van, we need a piece 3 meters 20 long. That's overdoing it by quite a bit. We want quite a little bit of overhang here because the carpet does stretch and change shape as we're doing it and as we push it into the contours of the van. So 3 meters 20, that's what we're taking off here. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing with this. I've got the carpet laid out on the floor, face down. There's two faces to this carpet. They look very similar, but they are slightly different. This one's just a bit flatter, the sticking face, so to speak, and the actual outer face is got a little bit more texture to it. So I have laid it all out on the floor, and I'm going to start here and work my way right the way along that top edge first. Now this is just going to be a bit at a time. To get started, we'll probably do, about 3 feet, get that piece on, work our way along, just doing about 3 feet at a time until we've got it secured onto this top piece of ply. So we want the spray adhesive on the ply, like that, and we want it on a similar amount of the carpet. Right, and we just want to stick this on, try to keep that as straight as we can, just onto that first part. That's looking good. And we can push this in here. So far so good. And we just want to continue that action right the way along until we've got the whole thing sort of hung. Okay, so we've got that sort of hanging from the ceiling, which is good. And what I'm going to do with it is I'll curl it up, lift it up, and just do a bit at a time. I'm going to maybe come down here about 2 feet by 3 feet, work my way along that way, and then we'll come down another 2 feet, and then we'll start contouring it into the windows and the wheel arch. Okay, so with the major piece on, there's still quite a bit of overhang here. This does come in 2 meter widths, so I'm going to cut some of this off fairly close to, but not right up to, just so we've still got a little bit of wiggle room for the wheel arch and for the back door pillar. But I'm going to trim that. It's going to make it much easier to do this bottom piece. Okay, I'll just whip that off with the scissors, and I'll keep this piece. This may very well do the back door trim, or it may do the front of the bulkhead there, we'll see. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just stick this piece down, then tackle the wheel arch. Start that from the top and then work my way round and down. Now this can be a bit of a job, but you've just got to work it in really. We want to make sure, or try to make sure, that we don't get any major creases in this. We may get a couple, but That's just the way it is. But we'll try to work them out and then work the whole thing back towards the wall. And something like this may be handy for that, just to work that in to the back of that wall. Okay, that's not so bad for that. I'm going to stick the rest of this down here, and then we'll come and tackle this back pillar. There's still this bit flapping around the back door, so I'm going to trim that. Again, leaving enough to do around the pillar, but I'm going to trim it, that'll make it easier, and then we'll trim around the floor line here. Okay, now if you can see that I've brought that round the pillar, I've taken the door trim off, and what I'm going to do is just trim that up to the back of the door. That's it. And now we can trim right the way around the floor and get a nice neat finish on the floor there as well. I'll just whack this back on for now. Okay, that being that, we've got the back pillar done, we've got the floor line cut down there. Right, so the next thing to tackle is this window, and what I'm going to do is put a relief cut in there, just an X in the middle of it, but I want to know how far I can take that. So I'm going to try to find the edges of the window first, just so I don't cut this too far. And I'm seeing I've got one here, so if I start about here, got another one there. Right, we'll have some idea where to cut, so I'm just going to cut that up with the scissors. That should be sufficient. We should be able to get it in with that. Now, I'm going to have to get in there with the spray can and spray both the window sill and the carpet, and then we're just going to work that in. Inevitably, we may get a splash or two on the window. Indeed, we already have. But this will come off with some terps. White spirit will get that off quite easily. So I'm going to start from the top here. And as I say, we just want to work that in to the corners. Okay, and a bit of chewing and tearing later. We've got the window done. Any discrepancies here we'll cover up with the trim when we'll put the knock-on trim on. So it's very difficult to get that in a straight line. Many blades required for that. But there we go, that's that done. I'm just going to finish off this little corner here, and then we will get on to the other side of the van. Now, unfortunately, it started to rain outside, so we're not going to be able to get the back doors done unless it fares up. It may fare up later, but what we can do is any of the other carpeting inside the van at this point. But it is going to be fairly dark, so I'm just going to get on with that wall. We'll see how the weather goes. Alright, now what we have is, I have this wall finished here. I don't know if you can see, it's very dark. The rain is coming down here, so we're not going to get the back doors done or the sliding door today. But I'll measure these, cut the carpet ready for tomorrow, and then we'll get on with something else. Okay, so it's definitely too rainy to do the rest of the carpeting on the van. So what I'm going to do is make the rock and roll bed, and this is rock and roll bed, wooden rock and roll bed Mark II. I'm going to make it out of this sheet of plywood. Now I'm going to cut it to width first, and I'm going to make this one 190 centimeters wide. I normally make them 120, but the Vivaro does have that mid pillar in it that the bed has to get round, so I just thought, well, let's just make it so it'll come straight out instead of monkeying around with that. So I'm going to cut down this sheet of ply, 190. I'll cut the base boards for the bed, and then we'll make the frame. And the first one of these, this way, we want it to be 60. So that's 60 plus the width of the base of the saw. Then we want another one at 50 and another one at 77, I believe it is. And with the boards cut, there's just a few things to do to this to prep it up. This one, this is the larger board which goes to the back, which will fold up. And this needs the corner cutting out at about 14 centimeters either way. So I'll mark that up and cut it out. And also, whilst I'm doing that, I will round these corners as well. I just think they look much better rounded. So we shall mark those out and cut them off. Alright, and with that done, I'm going to mark out for some holes in this, just for ventilation. And to get them out, I'm just going to use this hole saw, and this will be the same for these 3 boards. I'll just round the corners off, put the holes in, tidy them up. Here we go. Okay, so I've got all of these boards cut and laid out on the table. Next thing we want to do is hinge them. We want the hinges on this side for the seat and the back of the seat. We want the hinges on the other side for this back plate sort of thing. So I'm going to mark these out, router them, and then screw them in. That's pretty good, so I'll do the rest of these and then we'll take a look. And with all of the routers done, I'm going to take the opportunity just to give this a sand up. I'll clean up all of these corners, put a little radius on them, make it good. Here we go. Alrighty, and with them nicely cleaned up, next thing to do is to put the hinges in. Now these may come through. The screws may go right through there, but that's okay. If they'd have, what I'll do is just grind them off at the back. Now we can turn this whole thing over and open it up this way. And we can put the backboard on here. Okay, and there it is. The seat will fold up like so, the back will drop down. This is good. Now the overall length of this is 189 centimetres long, which that's well over 6 foot, is it not? That's about 6 foot 2.5, 6 foot 2.5 long, and it will be the 119 wide, which is just a centimetre off. Normally they're about 120. As I say, just to fit in the Vivaro, we lost a centimetre. Now to make the base for this bed, essentially what we want is just a box like this, which I'm going to make out of this 3x2. It's going to be like that and like that. Now the height of it wants to be 32 to clear the wheel arch. The length of it this way wants to be 75 because we've got 75mm runners, and for the sake of it we'll make it 75 this way as well. You could alter the width of this if you wanted to, but that will give us plenty of room to get over the wheel arch, and that will be a good support for the bed itself. So I'm just going to make that out of 3x2s. I'll do the calculations, see what all of these pieces need to be, cut them, screw them together, and then we'll get on with putting the sliding rails on and the piece which slides out of here for the bed. Now the way I'm going to do this, again slightly different to how I did the first rock and roll bed, but what I'm going to do is just drill a couple of holes in here. I've got a mark on my drill. We're going to put 70mm screws into there, and I'm going to glue these as well, so this will be absolutely solid. And with these two sides made, we're going to put these other battens across here. We're going to put these this way, not that way, this way, so that will screw down into the floor very easily. And same method, I'm just going to drill them, put some screws through, get some glue on, that'll be the box done. There is the frame. Now, the base for the rock and roll bed. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish this off. I've got some dowels here, 12mm dowels, and I'm just going to fill these holes up with the dowels. I'll glue them in, let them go off overnight, and then we'll cut them and sand this whole thing up. Alright, so I've come to the end of the day here. It's still raining a little outside, so we're not going to get the carpeting done. Have to wait till tomorrow or next time. But we have made a good start on the rock and roll bed, I think. The frame is here. Let that dry overnight, and then we'll see what the weather's like next time, and we'll either be finishing the rock and roll bed or finishing the carpeting. 2 plates spinning at the same time. If you're enjoying the videos, please do give them a thumbs up, and if you would like to see how this whole van turns out, do consider subscribing to the channel, and as always, I thank you very much for watching.